Okay, today we're going to learn about how to set up our What's Going Through Your Mind assignment. We'll start with a new file here in Photoshop. And I want to go to the print menu and I want to go to tabloid. This is going to give you 11 by 17 inches, resolution of 300. That's a general poster size doc, and then we're going to choose CMYK for our color mode, and then you can go ahead and click create. So here's my workspace. First thing I do is I make sure that my rulers are turned on. So I'll go to the view menu and click on rulers, make sure they're visible. The next thing I do is I right click in the ruler and I choose inches. It usually defaults to pixels. And then from here, I'm going to go and I'm going to click in my ruler and I'm just going to drag out 4 guides, one on vertical axis, and these guides are 1/2 inch from the outside edge of my workspace. What this does is it allows me to visualize where the edge of my print might be, but also to keep my most important aspects of my design within inside of those crop marks or guidelines. Okay, so next steps. I want to place an image in here. And in the case of this assignment, that's going to be my portrait photo that I took. So I'm going to just quickly screen share here an image that you took with your phone, your device, and so that you can get this sent over to Photoshop. All right, so I have my camera roll here. The first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and make sure I'm selecting all of the right images. So I'm going to click on, I really only need this one image here, and you can see here I use the filtering on my device to convert it to black and white. I'm going to recommend that you do that because it's going to be a lot easier than doing it in Photoshop. So I'm going to just select, go onto the select button up top. And now that's allowing me to go and pick which images on my roll I want to send. So I just need to send this one photo. I'm going to go down here to the up arrow, and I'm going to choose where I want to put this. So I can airdrop it to my computer, which is right here. I could send it in an email. I could put it in my Google Drive by clicking on more and then just scrolling until I see Google Drive. So there are a lot of choices here for where I can put that image. The last step is to click upload to make sure that it does actually upload. I just put it in my airdrop to this device. This device happens to be this item right here. And then you hear a little ping. Let's get out of screen mirroring here so that we can go back. And let's see if that picture came through. When you airdrop something, it generally goes to your downloads folder. So you would check downloads and you'd see it somewhere in there, most likely inside of your download folder. You do have to accept it first. So I went ahead and did that earlier, and I happen to have it in here. And I made a separate folder for this assignment, and I just put it right there. So now I have it, right? Next steps. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do File, and I want to do Place Embedded. And I want to make sure that the file that I'm embedding is the one I just downloaded. So I'm looking under Recents. There it is. And now I've got it in my workspace. Okay. Next steps. It's not the size I want it for my workspace, so I do need to expand it. I'm just going to come in and increase its size. I do want to have some negative space, though, up above my head because it's really important. I've got room there for all of the items that I'm going to be placing up there that are kind of coming out of my mind, right? So I'm going to expand left, right just a little bit. and making sure I've got room up there above my head, I can go ahead and click the check mark or hit enter to set that transformation. Okay, so next steps would be to isolate my portrait from the background. I don't really want to have anything showing up in the background that's going to be a solid color. And so I need to make sure that my layer that has my portrait image on it is rasterized. You do that by right-clicking on the layer and choosing to rasterize it. That converts it from a smart object to pixels. From here, I am going to use the object selection tool, and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag over my portrait, and I'm going to let the computer think for me about what it thinks I want to select. In this case, it's going to be the portrait. And you can see here, it did an okay job. It's not great. I do need to do more work, and I'm going to do the extra work here under select and mask. There are multiple options under select and mask. I like the overlay option because I can see the difference between the red and the background. You can adjust that though, like if you want to see through it more, to help you out with what you need to add to your selection. So that's an option. Okay, I'm going to zoom in because there are some details here that are missing that I need to have added. And so to add to my selection, I can come over here to this tool right here called the paintbrush, and I can adjust that brush. I can adjust how big it is or how hard it is. I suggest going with like a slightly soft brush and something that's about a size that's going to allow you to grab the things that you missed. So like the size of that brush is probably too big for that tiny little area. I'm going to undo that, and I'm just going to shrink my brush size down. Don't be afraid to zoom in so you can really see what's going on here. So I need to bring that ear back in. I kind of need to bring in this little bit of my hair. This part of the earring needs to be added because that got clipped. It doesn't have to be perfect. We can refine this later, but you can kind of see how just painting over it with this tool is going to allow it to be added back in. Okay, and I definitely want that part of my shoulder. That needs to be in there as well. I don't need this part, so I can flip-flop, and now I can go to subtract, which allows me to add that red back in, but you've got to be careful. I think my brush could be a little softer, and I really think it needs to be a lot smaller. So there's some push and pull here as you go in and you start refining these edges. Now, there's a section up here where my hair is not showing. There's a tool here you might want to try if that happens, and this allows you to bring back, but it brings that back at with some variety. So it starts to adhere to the edges of where there's some hair showing and where it's not showing. And the computer Photoshop, the selection tool, sort of thinks for you, like especially up in here where there's like flyaways and things like that. Now, I may not want those in my design and in my mask, so I don't really care. I think I'm going to leave those all clipped out. But this tool allows you to kind of blend the light and the dark. It's not doing exactly what I want, so I'm going to come in and I'm just going to bring that back because I do want all of that showing. I don't want any pink inside of this part of my portrait. Okay, I'm using a small brush. You'd be probably a little more efficient with something bigger. And again, this is not the only place where you can refine this. I'm going to go ahead and export this selection in just a minute, and I can continue to refine it from there. But I know for a fact I don't want the red in these parts, so I'm just going over to remove it, completely remove it from there. Okay. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for. No pink inside there. And we're almost done. That seems to be okay. I had a little trouble with the edge of this earring. Okay, that's decent. For now, let's go ahead and export it. Zooming down to the bottom right of this menu, go to Output, and I'd like you to choose New Layer with Layer Mask. Say OK. What I have now in my layer menu is I've got that layer, a copy. So it's a copy of my original, which is still here, and it's just not visible. And then I have this, which is a layer mask on top of my photo. And you can see that the area that is black is blocking the area of my image that was showing. And this is all non-destructive. I can throw out this layer mask and I can see my original image underneath it. So again, it's a non-destructive way of editing images in Photoshop. Okay, so if there were any areas that you were like, gosh, I did not want that included in my selection, it looks weird, like that looks really weird, and maybe I don't need these little bits of hair flying off the edge, I can go to my layer mask, and this time I can use a paintbrush. And so what I can do with the paintbrush is if I paint over this with black, it's going to block. Ooh, okay, careful. When you do this, check your brush. My brush is, first of all, way too big, and the hardness probably needs to be a little bit higher for the percentage there. And so I can come in now, and I can remove this stuff that wasn't supposed to be a part of my selection. And if I realize like, oh shoot, like I cut in too far there, just flip flop the black with the white, and you can bring that edge back if it was truly something that you had intended to keep. Yeah, I think that needs to be included. I can always go back to black if I don't want this bit of the hair in there, and I can just kind of like paint that out because I'm not really going to want to have that. Let's just say I'm not going to want to have that in my design. All right, so that's how to refine those edges. And now we have an isolated image and we are ready for the next steps.